What lies hidden in the silent ruins among the Anatolian hills, where 3.5 millennia ago stood the capital of an empire equal in might to pharaonic Egypt? Archaeologists have discovered here not just the remains of an ancient city, but a gateway to a world full of unsolved mysteries and mystical revelations. The Hittite civilization is a riddle whose secrets still terrify modern researchers. In those immemorial times, when Egyptian priests erected pyramids to the stars, and Babylonian sages unraveled the mysteries of the celestial spheres, a power destined to shake the foundations of the ancient world was emerging on the plateaus of Asia Minor. The Hittites, a people of Indo-European origin, who emerged from the northern mists in the 2nd millennium BC, created an empire whose sacred borders stretched from the foaming waves of the Aegean Sea to the divine waters of the Euphrates. When archaeologists first set foot on the sacred soil of Boaz-Koi, ancient Hattusa, a scene worthy of epic tales greeted their astonished gaze. Colossal walls of stone, giants, each weighing several tons, encircled the capital in a double ring of impenetrable fortifications. The Lion Gate, adorned with reliefs of ferocious beast kings, and the Royal Gate, with its enigmatic sphinxes, greeted all who dared approach the heart of the mysterious empire. Within the sacred fortress rose the palaces of the rulers and the temples of the celestials, while in the depths of the earth, subterranean galleries and secret passages twisted, creating a veritable labyrinth beneath the city. These mysterious dungeons, carved from the living rock by unknown masters, still hold their secrets. Some researchers claim that sacred mysteries, inaccessible to uninitiated mortals, were performed here. But the most stunning revelation was the discovery of the royal archive, more than 25,000 clay tablets covered in cuneiform characters. These silent witnesses of the past revealed to astonished scholars not only the chronicles of the Hittite Empire, but also astonishing details of the religious mysteries and ritual ceremonies of this enigmatic people. The ancient texts mentioned thunder and fertility gods, sacred rites, and magical practices. Hittite magi priests possessed arcane knowledge, passed down through the centuries from teacher to student in the strictest secrecy. They could foretell the future by the flight of sacred birds and the trembling of the entrails of sacrificial animals, communicate with the spirits of their ancestors, and summon heavenly powers to protect the realm. Sacred papyri described purification rituals, during which sages fumigated cities with fragrant herbs and recited incantations in the ancient Hatti language. A special place in the Hittite pantheon of deities was occupied by the formidable Teshub, lord of the storm, master of heavenly lightning and thunder. His divine consort, the radiant Arina, goddess of the sun, was considered the heavenly patron of the royal dynasty and the invisible guardian of justice. Majestic temples were erected to her, where sacred fires burned day and night, and priests performed complex rituals designed to ensure the fertility of the land and victory in sacred wars. Archaeological finds attest to the Hittites' remarkable mastery of the arcane art of metallurgy. They were among the first peoples on Earth to master the secrets of iron smelting on a previously unimagined scale. Their sorcerer blacksmiths crafted weapons and tools that surpassed those of all neighboring civilizations in quality and magical power. The secrets of sacred metallurgy were guarded more strictly than the state treasury, and exporting iron outside Hittite lands was punishable by agonizing death. In the sacred mountains of Anatolia, the mysterious Yazilukiya sanctuary, the written rock, has survived to this day. Skilled carvers have carved images of the gods and deities of the Hittite pantheon into the stone walls. These mysterious reliefs create the impression of a grand procession of celestial powers, solemnly marching across sacred ground. Modern researchers theorize that special rites of initiation and worship of the spirits of deceased rulers were performed in this mystical place. But archaeologists still cannot explain how Hittite architects were able to construct such monumental structures without modern technology. Stone colossi weighing tens of tons were fitted together with astonishing precision, as if the ancient craftsmen possessed technologies unknown to us. Some architectural elements are striking in their complexity and elegance, suggesting the involvement of supernatural forces. Hittite rulers were revered as earthly incarnations of celestial deities, endowed with supernatural powers and the gift of foresight. The king performed the sacred functions of high priest, presided over the most important religious mysteries, and personally conversed with the celestial beings. Ancient chronicles describe astonishing instances of monarchs receiving divine revelations in prophetic dreams or mystical visions that determined the fate of the entire empire for centuries to come. Particularly mysterious are the Hittite rituals of sacred substitution, which were performed during times of epidemics or natural disasters. Priests performed complex ceremonies, symbolically transferring misfortunes to sacrificial animals or even convicted criminals. These mystical rites were intended to cleanse the earth of spiritual filth and restore the disrupted harmony between the mortal world and the abode of the immortal gods. The Hittite army was one of the most formidable war machines of the ancient world. Warriors fought on swift war chariots drawn by pairs of war horses, and armed with swords, spears, and composite bows of unprecedented power. Heavy infantry, protected by bronze armor and armed with long spears, played a special role. Each military campaign was accompanied by complex rituals, during which priests and soothsayers divined the auspiciousness of the upcoming battles. The diplomatic treasuries of Hattusa contain astonishing documents, international agreements concluded with Egypt, Assyria, and other great ancient powers. The most famous of these was the peace treaty between the Hittite king Hattusili III and the Egyptian pharaoh Ramesses II, signed in the 13th century BC after the legendary Battle of Kadesh. This priceless document is considered the first written international agreement in human history. Hittite chronicles mention mysterious tribes of sea people who descended upon the eastern Mediterranean like divine punishment in the late 13th century BC, sowing destruction and untold disasters. These mysterious conquerors, who came from distant islands or from across the vast seas, were one of the main reasons for the collapse of the mighty Hittite Empire. Their devastating raids led to the destruction of sacred cities. The religious beliefs of the Hittites were remarkable for their astonishing complexity and remarkable syncretism. They worshipped 1,000 gods and goddesses, borrowed from various peoples of Anatolia and neighboring lands. Each deity had its own sacred sphere of influence and required specific sacrifices. The pantheon was headed by great celestials, the Lord of Thunder, the Sun Goddess, the God of War, and the Goddess of Fertility. But alongside them were hundreds of lesser spirits, demons, and patrons of various crafts. And then the ancient writings revealed a terrible secret. The last documents in the Hittite archives speak of famine, plagues, and internal unrest that shook the very foundations of the state. The kings cried out to the heavens, beseeching the gods for salvation, but the divine realms remained ominously silent. The priests performed increasingly desperate rituals, sacrificing treasures and even human lives, but nothing could stop the impending catastrophe of cosmic proportions. Hittite myths tell of the titanic struggle of the bright gods against the monstrous forces of primordial chaos, the exploits of divine heroes, and the creation of an orderly world from formless darkness. One of the most famous myths tells of the god Telepinu, who, in holy anger, abandoned the earth, leading to drought and widespread famine. Only through the cunning of the great mother goddess and powerful magical rituals was he returned to the mortal world. In the underground labyrinths of Hattusa, Archaeologists have discovered mysterious chambers whose true purpose remains shrouded in an impenetrable veil of secrecy. These rooms, carved into the city's bedrock by ancient craftsmen, are connected by a complex system of secret passages and possess astonishing acoustics. It's possible that secret initiation rites into sacred mysteries were performed here, during which Hierophant priests imparted arcane knowledge to chosen disciples. Hittite seals, miniature stone or metal cylinders with intricately carved images and sacred inscriptions, have attracted particular attention from ancient researchers. These tiny masterpieces of ancient art depict scenes from heroic myths, portraits of great rulers, and symbolic compositions of cosmogonic nature. They served not only as symbols of ownership and power, but also as powerful amulets, protecting their owners from evil spirits. Hittite astrologers meticulously observed the majestic dance of the heavenly bodies and compiled complex calendars based on sacred lunisolar cycles. They firmly believed that the positions of stars and planets in the celestial spheres directly influenced the destinies of individuals and entire states. So all-important decisions were made only after lengthy consultations with court astrologers. Prophetic prophecies and predictions of solar eclipses were preserved in the royal archives. Hittite healing art was a fascinating blend of rational knowledge of the human body and mysterious magical practices. Physician priests used medicinal herbs, performed surgery, and simultaneously performed complex rituals to exorcise illnesses from the body of the afflicted. They firmly believed that many ailments were caused by the wrath of offended gods or the malicious magic of hidden enemies, so true healing must act upon more than just the flesh. Hittite law emphasized harsh laws against witchcraft and magical crimes against the state and its citizens. Accusations of black magic and communion with dark forces were treated with the utmost seriousness, and the punishments for such crimes were truly horrific. Special rituals existed to identify sorcerers and witches and protect against their harmful influence. Priests performed purification ceremonies intended to neutralize evil spells. Archaeological treasures testify to the unprecedented flourishing of Hittite craftsmanship. Craftsmen created exquisite ceramics with geometric patterns of cosmic significance, exquisite gold and silver jewelry, richly decorated weapons, and religious objects. Hittite weavers were particularly renowned, producing luxurious embroidered fabrics that were highly prized by the rulers of neighboring countries and considered worthy of the gods. It was here that something happened that forever changed the fate of an entire civilization. The last great Hittite king, Suppiluliuma, in a fatal moment of blindness, sent his sons to rule distant provinces, unaware that he was thereby weakening the sacred central authority and opening the gates to chaos. Dynastic strife, which erupted after his death like a wildfire, undermined the empire's unity and made it easy prey for external enemies. Hittite trade routes stretched from the misty shores of the Black Sea to the sunny shores of the Mediterranean. Caravans, laden with precious goods, traversed the mountain passes of Anatolia, delivering rare metals, ivory, fragrant spices, and exotic goods from distant lands to the capital. Hittite merchants established trading posts in foreign lands and played a vital role in international trade during the Bronze Age, linking various civilizations with economic ties. The Hittite legal system was relatively humane for that harsh time. The death penalty was rarely used, and only for the most serious crimes. Criminals were more often sentenced to pay compensation for damages or to temporary slavery. The sacred institution of temple sanctuary existed. A criminal who took refuge in a sanctuary enjoyed divine protection until the final judgment. Particularly noteworthy were Hittite family laws, which granted women relatively broad rights. Hittite cosmogony was dominated by complex concepts of the afterlife and the mysterious fate of the immortal soul after separation from the mortal body. Deceased rulers were deified and continued to invisibly protect their earthly descendants from the heavenly realms, while the souls of mere mortals were sent to the underworld of shadows, where their fate depended on their observance of religious precepts and moral laws during life. Funeral rituals included cremation ceremonies. Hittite scribes developed a unique educational system that included the study of several languages and various writing systems. Future government officials and clergy studied Akkadian and cuneiform, Hittite, and local Anatolian dialects. Mesopotamian literature was copied and meticulously studied in schools, facilitating fruitful cultural exchange between the various civilizations of the ancient world. The architectural achievements of Hittite architects astound contemporaries with their grandiose scale and engineering perfection. They were the first in Anatolia to use arched structures and created a sophisticated water supply system that provided a continuous supply of life-giving water to the entire vast capital. Underground canals and capacious cisterns allowed the city to successfully withstand lengthy enemy sieges, and an elaborate system of multi-tiered fortifications made Hattusa virtually impregnable. Hittite religious celebrations were particularly solemn and lasted for several days. During the main spring festival, the king personally participated in sacred ceremonies of nature's rebirth, symbolically entering into a mystical marriage with the goddess of fertility, thereby ensuring divine blessing and prosperity for the entire country for the coming year. These grandiose rituals were accompanied by solemn music, ritual dances, and abundant sacrifices. The military tactics of Hittite commanders were based on the massive use of fast-moving war chariots, which operated in huge formations and dealt devastating blows to enemy infantry like divine lightning. Hittite commanders developed complex tactical schemes that involved the coordinated actions of various branches of the armed forces and the skillful use of terrain to achieve decisive advantages over the enemy in pitched battles. The court life of the Hittite rulers was characterized by the strictest ceremony and a complex hierarchy of court ranks. The king was considered a sacred figure, the earthly embodiment of a deity, and approach to him was regulated by numerous rituals and taboos. Court nobles were required to strictly adhere to complex etiquette, and the slightest violation of court protocol was punished with severe penalties. Royal women played a significant role in political life. The agriculture of the Hittite Empire was based on the cultivation of grain crops, livestock breeding, and thriving horticulture. Farmers developed effective irrigation methods, enabling abundant harvests even in the arid regions of harsh Anatolia. The state strictly controlled the distribution of fertile land and collected taxes in grain and livestock, which supported a large army, an extensive bureaucracy, and a lavish court. Hittite musicians and poets created a rich cultural tradition that profoundly influenced the creativity of neighboring peoples. Inspired hymns to their patron saints resounded solemnly in temples, and at the royal court, skilled storytellers performed epic songs about the military exploits of heroes of the distant past. Musical instruments, lyres, flutes, and drums were used not only to entertain the nobility, but also in religious ceremonies as a sacred means of communication. But the most terrible mystery of history remains the sudden and catastrophic disappearance of the great Hittite civilization from the face of the earth. Around 1200 BCE, the majestic capital was suddenly abandoned by its inhabitants. The royal archives were abandoned, and the mighty empire vanished, as if dissolved into the mists of oblivion. The causes of this cosmic catastrophe remain an unsolved mystery. Perhaps it was the result of climate change, the invasion of barbarian hordes, or an internal collapse. Archaeological layers bear eloquent witness to the massive fires and widespread destruction that engulfed the empire's cities in its final years. Traces of hasty flight, scattered treasures, and unfinished buildings all suggest that the catastrophe struck the Hittites completely unexpectedly, leaving no time for an organized evacuation. Some researchers suggest that the cause was not only external enemies, but also internal conflicts. The last cuneiform documents from the royal archives paint an apocalyptic picture of a great power in its death throes. Kings implore the gods for salvation. Priests perform desperate rituals, but nothing can stop the impending chaos. Crop failures, epidemics, uprisings of conquered peoples, and invasions by northern barbarians are mentioned. It seems as if all these misfortunes befell the Hittites simultaneously, as if the heavens themselves had turned their backs on their once beloved people. The legacy of the Hittite civilization continued to live on in the cultures of the peoples of Anatolia and the Middle East for many centuries after its disappearance. Their revolutionary achievements in iron metallurgy, military art, and diplomatic practice had a colossal influence on the development of all subsequent civilizations in the region. Hittite law became one of the most important sources for the formation of legal traditions in the ancient world, and their religious beliefs were reflected in the beliefs of many peoples. Modern archaeological research continues to reveal new chapters of Hittite history and culture. Each scientific expedition yields sensational discoveries, new texts, works of art, and everyday objects that provide a deeper understanding of the lives and worldviews of this fascinating people. Modern technologies help decipher ancient inscriptions and virtually reconstruct the appearance of long-destroyed cities and temples. The study of Hittite religion reveals a fascinating world of ancient beliefs, where reality was intricately intertwined with mythology. The Hittites believed their land was inhabited by countless spirits and deities who constantly intervened in human lives. Every spring, mountain, and grove had its patrons, who demanded regular sacrifices and the observance of complex taboos. This animistic foundation of religion was combined with a developed mythology and a complex cult of state deities. Hittite masters achieved unprecedented heights in the art of stone and metal carving. Their works are distinguished not only by technical perfection, but also by profound symbolism. Reliefs and seals often depicted scenes of sacred marriages of the gods, cosmic battles between the forces of light and darkness, and solemn processions of divine patrons. Each element of the composition had sacred significance and was understandable to those initiated into the mysteries of religion. Hittite diplomacy was distinguished by its sophistication and pragmatism, which allowed a relatively small nation to successfully confront such giants as Egypt and Assyria. The Hittites masterfully employed the principle of divide and conquer, pitting enemies against each other and forming temporary alliances with their most dangerous adversaries. Their diplomatic correspondence attests to a high level of political culture and understanding of international relations. The Hittites' mysterious rituals included complex, evil transfer ceremonies, during which priests symbolically transferred diseases, crop failures, and other disasters to specially chosen animals or even people. These scapegoats were then banished to deserted places or sacrificed to the gods of the underworld. Such rites were intended to cleanse society of accumulated negative energy and restore cosmic balance. Hittite women, especially those from noble families, enjoyed considerable freedom and influence in society. Some queens effectively ruled the state, while others headed priestly colleges or led diplomatic missions. Hittite texts mention female doctors, merchants, artisans, and even military leaders. This contrasted sharply with the status of women in most ancient civilizations. The Hittite educational system was closely linked to religious institutions. Future priests and officials underwent extensive training in temple schools, where they studied not only writing and arithmetic, but also complex ritual texts, astrology, medicine, and law. Particular attention was paid to the study of sacred languages and ancient myths, considered a source of wisdom and divine knowledge. Hittite physicians developed a complex system of disease diagnosis based on observing external symptoms and analyzing the patient's behavior. They distinguished a wide range of illnesses and prescribed specific treatments for each, combining herbal remedies with magical rituals. Some Hittite medical texts are striking in their precise descriptions of symptoms and treatment methods, demonstrating a high level of medical knowledge. The Hittites' astronomical knowledge was closely linked to their religious beliefs. They considered the heavenly bodies to be divine beings influencing earthly events. Hittite astrologers compiled detailed horoscopes for rulers, predicted auspicious days for military campaigns and religious ceremonies, and interpreted the significance of comets and eclipses. Their calendar was based on complex astronomical calculations. Hittite art is characterized by a synthesis of local Anatolian traditions with Mesopotamian and Egyptian influences. Artists created monumental reliefs to decorate palaces and temples, exquisite taurutics, and colorful ceramics. Hittite masters of glyptic, the art of seal carving, were particularly renowned, creating miniature masterpieces with incredibly fine detail. The Hittites' trading activities contributed to the spread of their cultural influence far beyond the empire's borders. Hittite merchants established trading colonies in Syria and Palestine, where local rulers adopted Hittite customs, technologies, and religious beliefs. These cultural ties persisted even after the fall of the Hittite state, contributing to the formation of a common Middle Eastern civilization. Hittite military development reached a high level thanks to a combination of advanced technology and sophisticated organization and tactics. Hittite metallurgists created new types of iron weapons that were stronger and sharper than bronze. Hittite charioteers were considered the best in the ancient world, and their infantry was distinguished by high discipline and combat prowess. Hittite engineers built impregnable fortresses and siege engines. The decline of the Hittite civilization was not sudden. It stretched over several decades and was accompanied by a gradual weakening of central authority. Increasing raids by barbarian tribes, economic difficulties, and dynastic disputes sapped the state's strength from within. When the Sea Peoples descended upon the empire, it was no longer able to effectively resist the devastating invasion. The last Hittite rulers desperately tried to save the crumbling empire. They formed alliances with former enemies, carried out religious reforms, and attempted to reorganize the army and administration. But it was too late. The processes of disintegration had progressed too far. Archaeological evidence indicates that many Hittite cities were abandoned by their inhabitants even before the arrival of the conquerors. The mysteries of Hittite writing remain unsolved by scholars. Along with the well-studied cuneiform, the Hittites used a mysterious hieroglyphic script, which remains difficult to read. These hieroglyphs are found on monuments throughout Anatolia and Syria, but their exact meaning and grammatical structure remain largely unclear. It's possible this script was used for special, sacred purposes. The influence of the Hittite civilization on subsequent human history is difficult to overestimate. Their advances in iron metallurgy revolutionized the ancient world, ushering in the Iron Age. Hittite legal principles formed the foundation of many legal systems. Their diplomatic traditions influenced the development of international law. Hittite religious beliefs influenced the formation of many ancient cults. Modern research reveals that the Hittite civilization was far more advanced and complex than previously thought. New archaeological discoveries continually expand our knowledge of this remarkable people. The use of modern technologies, satellite imaging, geophysical methods, and computer data processing allows us to discover new sites and gain a more complete picture of Hittite culture. The study of the Hittite language has opened new horizons in understanding the history of the Indo-European peoples. Hittite has proven to be one of the most archaic languages in the Indo-European family, retaining many ancient features lost by other languages. This has allowed linguists to reconsider many theories about the original homeland and migrations of the Indo-Europeans, as well as to better understand the processes of linguistic development. Hittite mythology contains unique stories not found in other ancient traditions. The myth of the storm god's battle with the dragon Iluyanka, the legend of the disappearance of the god Telepinu, the tale of the stone that gave birth to the gods. All these works reflect the unique worldview of the Hittite people and their understanding of cosmic forces. Many motifs from Hittite myths later found their way into the folklore of various Anatolian peoples. Hittite religious practice included complex rituals of purification and consecration, which were intended to maintain harmony between the human and divine worlds. These rites required the participation of specially trained priests and priestesses who knew secret formulas and the correct sequence of actions. The slightest error in the ritual could lead to divine wrath and misfortune for the entire community. Hittite artists created a distinctive style of visual art that combined realistic elements with symbolic imagery. Their works are distinguished by their monumentality, rigorous composition, and profound religious content. Many images had not only decorative but also magical significance, intended to ward off evil forces and attract divine blessings. The social structure of Hittite society was quite complex and included various classes, from the royal family and nobility to artisans and slaves. However, social mobility was possible, especially through military or priestly service. Talented individuals from the lower classes could achieve high positions in the state hierarchy, which contributed to the dynamic development of Hittite society. Hittite cities were meticulously planned and included various functional zones: administrative, religious, artisanal, and residential. The city's center was usually a palace and temple complex surrounded by powerful fortifications. Residential quarters were arranged in concentric rings around the center, while beyond the city walls were fields and pastures that provided the city with food. The economy of the Hittite Empire was based on agriculture, crafts, and trade. The state controlled the mining and processing of metals, especially iron, which gave the Hittites a significant advantage in trade with neighboring peoples. A well-developed road system connected various parts of the empire and facilitated the development of internal trade. Hittite artisans were renowned for the high quality of their products. The final period of the Hittite civilization is shrouded in mystery and tragedy. A great empire that had existed for over 500 years vanished from the historical stage within a few decades. Archaeological evidence indicates widespread destruction and fires in Hittite cities, but the exact causes of the catastrophe remain a subject of scholarly debate. The memory of the Hittites has been preserved in the traditions of various peoples of Asia Minor. Assyrian and Babylonian chronicles mention the land of Hatti as a powerful state of the past. The Bible mentions the Hittites among the peoples of Canaan, although these later Hittites were merely descendants of immigrants from the destroyed empire. Greek historians also retained vague memories of a great people who once ruled Anatolia. The legacy of the Hittite civilization reminds us of the fragility of human achievement in the face of time and historical upheavals. A powerful empire, equal in strength and cultural influence to the Egypt of the pharaohs and the Babylon of the kings, vanished, leaving behind only silent ruins and clay tablets inscribed with cuneiform characters. But this archaeological evidence contains great wisdom, the understanding that the true wealth of a civilization lies not in military might. The true value of the Hittite legacy lies in the spiritual and cultural achievements of this remarkable people, in their pursuit of justice, expressed in legal codes, in their search for harmony with divine powers, reflected in religious texts, and in their artistic creativity, which still amazes with the perfection of form and depth of meaning. The Hittites left humanity with an invaluable experience in creating a multinational empire based on mutual respect among diverse cultures. The history of the Hittite civilization teaches us to appreciate the cultural diversity of humanity and recognize the importance of preserving historical memory. Every vanished civilization carries with it a unique experience of the human spirit, a unique worldview, and distinctive ways of addressing the eternal problems of existence. Studying the past helps us better understand the present and build a wiser future, avoiding the mistakes of our predecessors and preserving their achievements. Let the astonishing story of the ancient Hittites inspire you to explore humanity's rich heritage, seek answers to the eternal questions of existence, and discover new facets of human genius. Like this, if this captivating saga of a forgotten empire touches your heartstrings, subscribe to the channel to be the first to learn about new archaeological discoveries and historical mysteries, and be sure to share your thoughts on the mysteries of vanished civilizations in the comments. What ancient secrets intrigue you most?